I'm not particularly a fan of sport animes and visual novels. I can see the appeal, but it's not really for me. In saying that, however, there is one I can agree with, and that's Aokana. Aokana takes a made-up sport known as flying circus and slowly drags you in through action-packed scenes as well as emotional scenes where each character pushes themselves to their limits, both physically and, well, of course, this is a romance visual novel at its core, and there are some good and bad things about that aspect of it too. But anyway, let's talk about the visual novel with the flying shoes.
そりゃ違うよ。
さよなら。誰なの？私も好きですよ。バカ！
If I could sum up Aokana in one way, it's feel good, except maybe Misaki's route, which kind of starts depressing. The common route introduces us to our characters, their strengths, and the aspects of flying circus in general. Each character's specific route has them be our main protagonist Messiah focuses on, as well as his love interest. If you need a visual novel that is both atmospheric and relaxing, Aokana is second to none in that regard. Writing isn't Steins Gate or Wonderful Everyday level, but for a romance VN focused on a fictional sport, it's plenty. Masaya Hinata was a prodigy of skywalking, under the wing of world-famous skywalker Aoi Kagami. However, after losing to some random kid who easily picked up all the moves Masaya had spent much time learning, he believes he is not fit for the sport and retired. Fast forward to high school, known as Kunahama Institute, and new student Asuka Kodashina bumps into Masaya. She has never worn grab shoes before, but becomes enamored with them and later the sport FC. As they are late on their fateful day of union, Masaya is forced to use his grab shoes that he's been avoiding to fly him and Asuka to school, and from there we meet most of our other main characters. We meet Misaki Tobisawa, Masaya's childhood best friend, and Mashiro Arisaka, a junior who is obsessed with Misaki. Shion Aoyagi and Madoka Aoyagi soon are introduced, the older brother being obsessed with FC, and the younger sister whose interest only lies in managing the team, which doesn't exist until this group, along with Asuka and previously mentioned Aoi, convinced Masaya to be their coach. Our final main character happens to be Masaya's neighbor Riki Ichinose, who is actually enrolled in another school known as Takahuji that happens to be one of the most competitive schools in the country for FC. They meet in accidental circumstances, but after a couple of stiff conversations, it's ironed out and we begin to get the main point of the story. Masaya coaches to the best of his abilities. They end up practicing a couple of times at Takahuji's institute before they compete in the upcoming tournament. Everyone does their best, Misaki seeming the currently most skilled from the team, followed by Asuka and Shion, and finally Mashiro. However, none of our main cast get too far in the tournament. Takahuji's leader, Kazunari Shindo, a world-class player, makes it to the finals and is favored to win. However, Saki Inui is the other contender and defeats Shindo in a match that isn't even close. Saki and her coach Irina are our main antagonists for this game. Whilst Masaya and Aoi are worried about what Saki is doing with their treasured flying circus, and Asuka being completely in love with Saki's playstyle, Misaki is having self-doubt. Misaki was initially the best at the sport from the team due to her experience. However, Asuka turned out to be naturally gifted at FC. Asuka ended up versing Shindo in the tournament and actually forced him to bring out his full potential, unlike Misaki, who he had gone easy on. Misaki follows Masaya's footsteps and quits the team, and everything is awry. This is where the routes diverge. I'm going to go through these fast, as they are similar in many ways and are much more worth playing yourself than for me to describe them here. The first two and the last two are semi-related. In the first set of routes, we have our heroines with potential, Asuka and Misaki. If you choose to focus on Asuka, you watch as her skill level skyrockets, and it's impossible not to feel enthusiastic when she spreads her joy about it. She manages to train until she is one of the best high school level skywalkers, and the route successfully ends with her defeating Saki, with Aoi and Masaya coming back to Flying Circus as well. Really, I feel this is the canon ending. Irina's irate, Saki's actually enjoying herself, and the entire sport of Flying Circus changes forever. Misaki's begins a little more depressing. She distances herself from the main group, and Messiah chooses to focus on her and gives his coaching position to Aoi, who sees potential in Asuka. After a lot of hard work, Misaki is beginning to show signs of having the ability to win against Saki, and with her surprise technique of flying upside down, she successfully beats Saki in an early bracket in the tournament, meeting Asuka, of course, in the finals. Misaki ends up barely winning, but everyone has fun for the most part, and all is well again. Even so, without the other characters, this route feels lonely. I don't recommend doing this route last like I did. The other two just have Messiah focus on Mashiro and Rika, and these routes are more side routes because they don't deal with Saki as the main antagonist. Instead, we look more into the struggles of Skywalkers who have significantly less talent. Each character is developed in the common route, but especially in these routes we see the development of their flying circus skills, from Mashiro especially. They struggle but manage to push past their limits that were very clear in the other routes as they fight back their demons. This time around, I'll loop it all into one because it's short. The only gameplay mechanics are choices, and the choices don't actually matter until the last three that decide which route you end up in. However, the VN has everything you need: a CG viewing screen, plenty of save slots, and a plentiful options menu. The game's art and music go hand in hand in making it one of the best feeling visual novels I've ever played. It truly does feel like you're on an island, near the beach, or flying through the air, especially when the routes begin to end and our protagonists are victorious in varying ways. It'll probably bring a tear to your eye. I could explain the sport of flying circus here, but I think it's better just to play the game. There are a lot of aspects to it, like different kinds of shoes and moves, that would take a while to explain. I will say the game does not bore you with how it presents it. The romance is kind of weak in this game. The falling in love kind of just happens and feels awkward sometimes. It's definitely not the worst, and it doesn't detract from the game at all, but it's not a game worth picking up solely for that. Unless you want to play the one with hentai scenes, but I played on Switch. In fact, I binged half the game from 2 AM until noon one morning when I was hungover in bed. Thank God for the Switch. My favorite route is definitely Asuka's route because I enjoyed her personality, but Mashiro has the best romance route, if you can get past the lolly thing. The game is slow at times, and I actually dropped it for 2 months before binging it, but it is worth getting through the first chapters to see the story grow. Finally, the last thing to mention is that there is a true ending of sorts, but it's just a 10-minute or so scene after all the endings that essentially combines them all in some ways. It's not really worth mentioning, and I think Asuka's end is just the better way to end the game, but if you get that far, it's worth giving it its short read. Aokana is bloody brilliant. I can't recommend this visual novel enough, even if you just need something relaxing to read. And even if you don't, it's still worth picking up eventually. Perhaps the true flying circus was the adventures we had along the way. But that's just a theory, a visual novel theory. Thanks for wait, there's an anime and it's okay. The anime is more so focused on Asuka and Misaki, with the same plot points of the important parts of the common route and Asuka's route. I think it tells the story well as a sort of recap, and it's one of those visual novel animes that are really good to watch when you played the visual novel in the past, preferably distantly in the past. It's only 13 episodes though, and the entire Aokana universe can't really be expanded in that amount of time, so have some caution if you think it's better to just watch the anime than buy the visual novel. Well, most people won't think that, and if they do, they shouldn't. But anyway, here's a clue to the next video. Thanks for watching.